Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Seb here, and today we're going to be doing a game review. Today we're going to be covering Rockstar's 2018 brilliant game, Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, if you clicked on the video, then you probably heard it before, and there's a reason for that. This game was huge when it came out, and it still is now. People rave about how brilliant a game it is, and most part, I agree. I've only recently played it for the first time, finishing it. It was a couple weeks ago that I finished it for the story for the first time, and it took me months to play, and yeah, it's an experience I will always treasure, I think. So let's get into the review. But first, let's start by introducing the game a little bit. This is right from the Rockstar website. So let me read the description for you. America, 1899. The end of the Wild West era has begun. After a robbery goes badly in the western town of Blackwater, Arthur Morgan and the Vanderlyn gang are forced to flee, with federal agents and the best bounty hunters in the nation massing on their heels. The gang must rob, steal, and fight their way across the rugged heartland of America in order to survive. As deepening internal divisions threaten to tear the gang apart, Arthur must make a choice between his own ideals and a loyalty to the gang who raised him. And so yeah, there you go. That's 2018 Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, you know what's funny? I'm just going to tell you first an anecdote. I didn't realize until recently that the events of this game were supposed to be a prequel to Red Dead Redemption, the first one, which I have not played. Just full disclosure there. And so I ended up learning a little bit about what happened in that game, and that's all news to me, and it's pretty devastating to learn the whole story. But let's get on to it a bit more. Yes, Red Dead Redemption 2 is an open world game, like a lot of Rockstar games are, like GTA 5, which is the only other Rockstar game I've played. And yeah, frankly, this is a brilliant game. There's not really much I can say. Let's get into the story review here. Let's start with the good. Now, the thing you will hear praised the most about Red Dead Redemption 2 is the story and the characters. Like, this is one of those things, like, people will cite these among some of the greatest fictional characters ever in any media ever, especially, like, the main character, Arthur Morgan. Like, you talk about a story about a man trying to change, just, like, the morality of good and evil. It's the sort of thing that even, despite the fact that the open world aspect of the game allows you to basically do whatever you want, the game still, like, so there's two ways you can play the game. There is the high honor system, which will give you, and then the low honor system. And the way that works is that high honor and low honor will get you different endings. And frankly, that, like, depending on what you do, it becomes tough to play as low honor. I got a high honor ending, but I've seen what you get in low honor, and it's devastating. Because this story, it does not have a happy ending. Well, I guess you could say it does, in a sense, but it's a pretty brutal story at the end of the day. We are dealing with the Wild West. We are dealing with a dark part of American history. And yes, at the end of the day, it's a Rockstar game where you can go around just shooting people and doing whatever you want because the game won't stop you. It encourages you to. And I think that's another thing about you got to understand about the game. And that's the freedom. Now, this is one of those open world games that there are very few like it. I would say the only one that comes close is maybe like Breath of the Wild. But even that I don't think, really comes close to the amount of freedom. This is the kind of game where you can get lost for hours just doing random tedious things. You can go play poker or blackjack, or just play random mini games across the towns, or you can go to random towns and shoot up a bunch of people. You can rob banks. You could just, like, there's all these side quests, and, like, you can just go fishing, and you can spend hours doing that. It's the kind of game where you end up just getting lost in how big the world is. And that's one of the most, like, just rewarding and freeing things. But it also means that the game is really long. And I'll get to that in a bit.
a little longer. Now the gameplay is really fun at the best of times. It can get a little slower at times, especially the way I played it because I played on the PS5. I don't know if playing on PC makes it a little bit faster and such, but as far as it goes, once you get to good with it, it's a fun and there's no real difficulty level. It's all pretty standard stuff. If you played GTA or any other Rockstar game, then you'll know that the difficulty level isn't too important. It is what it is. It's just the way the game works. Um, yeah. So as far as the good goes, guys, that's about it. It's a brilliant game. The characters, oh my god, like you may cry at certain parts of this game. It is that like it's a brutal game. Like the story here, we're talking about like a single guy who's just like journeying with these people, and just it's a reflection on life, and it's just in a brutal period of history, and it's just ah, I cannot recommend this game enough if you have like any interest in just going around and being Arthur Morgan. Then I mean, hey, all the power to you guys. It's there's not really that many experiences quite like it. I haven't played many games where you get that kind of feeling because like I remember playing GTA 5 and though they're all and then though that's a great game, I feel like it's a little bit more corny and you don't feel as bad about being a bad person in that game. It's definitely more like it sort of becomes more silly. Now there's a lot of that in this game too. You can go around being silly, and of course there's obviously the online versions which I haven't touched with a 6 foot pole because you know how notorious Rockstar online versions can get. It's just craziness over there. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to the bad per se. I won't say the bad because it is one of those games which has very few negatives and it's more nitpicky in a sense, and this is just things I've thought about it as time has gone on, and it's just something I've considered and thought about. So I guess the first thing I'll make a point of is this is a very long game. Uh, I played this game for months, and I wasn't even halfway through the main story. And that goes back to the open world and into my second point, and that's sort of the pacing. The pacing and the length sort of go together hand in hand. And the reason for that is because the world is so big, you will find yourself forgetting that you're supposed to be doing anything else. If you are dedicated to them just doing the story of the game, then you could maybe knock that out in a couple of days. I don't know. I haven't tried this kind of playthrough. I don't know if you can really do a speed run of this game because the cutscenes are really long and it is a bit of a slow burn, but trust me, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I know I didn't mind. I loved every minute of playing this game. That's not true. Everybody's got problems with some things. Some of the moments were slower. Some of the storylines and some side quests I wasn't as interested in. There was one with like these two brothers. It was really random where they just wanted to impress a girl. You know what I mean if you play the game. But yeah, there's so much to do in this game, and that can be a good thing, but it can also drag the pacing of this story down. So I don't know how like fast the game can actually be played if you like want to do a speedrun of it because it's not really that kind of game. But that's just me. I think for the most part, the game is like it feels like a proper western, like one of those brilliant. It could have been like a TV series about this, but I think the game is what makes it so perfect because you have the freedom to choose whether or not you want to be good or you want to be bad. It's morality. That's morality and change, and just good and evil in America at that period of time. It's a brilliant game. You really just can't get enough of it, especially when you do well in it. It's not exactly one of those high risk high reward sort of games. You don't really lose much, but you can, especially if you think about like some things like you obviously there's currency in the in-game currency which you use to buy things, and of course there's probably the one companion you have throughout the whole game, and that's your horse, which I'm not gonna spoil anything, but oh my god. Um, all right, so the last thing I'm gonna say in this bad section, I guess, is the mechanics. I sort of touched on that in the gameplay, but for me at least, there because of how big this game is, uh, some of the mechanics were a little clunky, and maybe that's just because I played it on the PlayStation and not on PC. But at least the way it felt for me was that there was a lot of work that could have been better, but maybe that's just a control thing. Again, this is really a nitpick, and I don't know if it's better in any other way. It is a big game, and therefore there is going to be a lot that needs to be done, and so there's only so many buttons on the controller. I don't really know if that's anybody's fault. It's a total nitpick. Yeah, I mean, that's probably not going to bother you in the long run. It's just something I noticed. Now, I'm going to get down to the last question here, guys. Should you play it? If you have any interest in Red Dead Redemption, and should you play the first one? I don't know. I've heard the first one is good. I've heard it's great. But most people agree that this one, Red Dead Redemption 2, is actually superior. Now, I can't say it to either one. I've played only this one. I'd like to play the first one. Definitely graphics not as good, but that's because it's an older game. I'm sure it still plays fine. Yeah, I don't know, guys. If you're interested, I absolutely recommend it. It's the sort of thing where, because it is a prequel, you can technically play this one first and then go on and play the first game if you're interested. And I don't know if that's the correct way you should play them in the order, because maybe it becomes a bit of a downhill, or it really depends on you, I guess, at the end of the day. But if you want a great story, guys, a great Western, but just not only a great Western story, but just a great story all in all, with an incredible protagonist, focus on crime, morality, and just life in its own way, and regret, and what that means to be just human at the end of the day. It's I'm not gonna pretend like it's exactly Moby Dick here, but we're talking about something that's incredibly deep, despite also being very silly. I had some moments, and that's because it's a Rockstar game. At the end of the day, they're trying to make you have as much fun as you can by giving you as much freedom as you can. And so you get the silly moments, and you get all the memeable moments, but at the end of the day, it is an absolutely brilliant game that I think if you have any interest, you should absolutely go ahead and give it a shot. It does start off a little slow, and that sort of goes back to my pacing issue there. Because of you sort of have to do some things, you get used to the mechanics. In the beginning, it's kind of slow, but once you do get to the second chapter or so, where you really get to explore and roam, that's really when the game really gets going. You get to do whatever you want, and you get to explore. And my God, is it worth it, guys? Do I have a rating for this game? I mean, aside from the handful of nitpicks, and those are really nitpicks, I really don't have that many criticisms of the game as a whole. I'm going to give it a 9.8 out of 10. I think it's brilliant. I think you should play it. I think everybody should play it, or at least give it a shot. It's not necessarily going to be for everyone, but I think it's an absolutely brilliant game. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you have not already. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I did a little bit better this time. And yeah, I mean, play this freaking game, guys. What else can I say? I'll try to make another video sometime soon. Have a good one, guys.